Doo-doo-dee. It's Nandi.
Hello, it's Nandi. I'm back from holiday and I'm very excited to make some more content and share some more stuff with all of you. I hope you're all keeping well. So today's video is going to be about another infographic. It's going to be a continuation of my very first video and very first infographic. And that is the Dirty Dozen concept, the Dirty Dozen sort of list. For those of you that are newer to the channel and haven't watched my other videos, the Dirty Dozen was a concept that we came up with in the Pants of Hulk guild to kind of rank the characters in the game and come up with a top 12 list for players to think about and invest in for various game modes. I'm really happy with this infographic. I think that, you know, I've only been doing this for about a month or so, and I'm very much learning as I go. I humbly think that this is my best infographic to date, and I hope that you guys enjoy it too. I just wanted to take a quick detour and plug a player in the Tacticus community who has been instrumental in allowing me to do what I do. I think a lot of work that I do is centered around infographics and presenting information to the community in a really useful and easy to visually digest fashion. And IGAP has been instrumental in getting me a lot of those resources to include in the infographics, and I couldn't do this without him, really. So with that said, I've just included a link below to his refer a friend code. So if you're new to the game or you're interested in getting some free Blackstone for your account, putting in that referral code not only gets you some Blackstone, but also gets IGAP some Blackstone, and that's hopefully keeps him motivated to continue to help me, which obviously lets me help you guys, so thank you very much. So onto the infographic. We're looking at the February infographic, which is slightly different to last month's. This month we're looking at 5 criteria. We're looking at the guild raids, both the Tyrannid and the Necron guild raids, how the characters perform in Arena, and the legendary release events. I've decided to change things up a little bit this time and include the LREs because what we're finding out is that the LRE characters are proving to be among the best in the game, and also they're probably the most difficult characters to include in the game, and therefore, you know, it's a huge part of character collection and that aspect of the Tacticus game. The early data is telling us that Maugan Ra is going to be very, very strong in guild raids, and I would very much encourage you to think about how you can unlock the character as quickly as possible, because guild raids are a big part of not only the game but also about how you progress your guild and roster, you know, through the rewards that you get there. I've made separate videos and separate infographics that you can find on my channel, which talks about the Maugan Ra event, which characters to use, which ones not to use, and different scoring systems that you can use to inform your own choices. And I think given how important that character is, I would definitely encourage you to check that out. So here we have a scoring slide explaining how the team that's working with me has come up with the different numbers. We're using a 5-point scale, with 5 being the best score and 1 being the worst score. And the first 3 scores that you can see on the left-hand side are essentially an average score from the team, who was each asked to individually rank all 47 odd characters in the game. So I took an average, and then I was the final arbiter of the scores, moving them up or down as I saw appropriate. And then we got a list of each character's score for guild raids as well as for Arena. The legendary release event scores are just a little bit more mathematical, so basically I'll show you a screenshot of the scoring matrix shortly, but I went through and calculated how many points each character scored for each legendary release event, and that gives you a concrete number that is just fixed in the game. And we then came up with a quintile system, so the top 20% of characters, in terms of the top 20% of characters who scored the best in the legendary release event would get a score of 5, and the bottom 20% would get a score of 1, and the numbers in between would be padded by the characters in between. And you can see here an example of this of the sort of scoring matrix that we use to come up with each character's total legendary release event points, and that total point scoring system is then used to give us our scoring matrix. So here we are, a general overview of the infographic before we dive into each character individually. You can see that the Xenos are very well represented in the Dirty Dozen this month, and the Eldari and the Tau score particularly well. Maugan Ra is among the best characters, and very shortly I'll take you through a character by character breakdown. So the first character we're looking at is Commissar Yarrick. And Yarrick has a perfect score. He scores 5s across the board, and I think probably at this moment in the game he is the best character as a single standalone character in the game. His summons are fantastic. You know, he gets 4 summons on turn 1 whenever he chooses to use them. They synergize with each other as well as with other characters in the game, and he just is fantastic and dominates any mode that you put him in. He also happens to score in the top 20% of both legendary release events, and I cannot speak more highly of how good this character is. Maugan Ra is up next. Very few characters currently have Maugan Ra unlocked, but the early information and testing suggests that he will be an invaluable asset to whoever has him. He excels with Eldari synergies, particularly for Athena's crit and Eldryon's multi-attack bonus. So I think there's going to be a lot of teams that include all 3 of those characters. And I would really encourage you to check out resources that will allow you to unlock this character as early as possible. I've got some, but other people have included their own guides as well. And you really want to be working on these characters, but particularly Maugan Ra for this upcoming legendary release event, given how invaluable I think he's going to be. The next character is Eldryon, you know, I've spoken in the past about how useful Eldryon is, and I think a lot of the value comes from the passive. Eldryon's passive is the most powerful passive in the game, and you know, it increases your damage, particularly in guild raids, exponentially as these as the passive is incremented and leveled. As we speak, at the time of recording this video, the Pants of Horus guild is the top guild in guild raids in the game, and a big part of our success is, you know, we have recognized how important Eldryon is, and we're all focusing on bringing Eldryon up in order to maximize our damage potential and make guild raid progress. You really want to pair the character with other characters who have multi-attacks or have summons with multi-attacks in order to really get the most out of that passive. It's just absurd how strong it is at the moment. The next 2 characters I've just grouped together, and they are Calandis and Sho'Syl. Both characters rank highly because of how well they perform in the legendary release events. The distinction between the 2 is that Sho performs slightly better in raids because of the piercing damage that he can generate through his drones, whereas Calandis is very, very good in arena modes with a very high crit chance and movement mechanics. The next 2 characters are Marneus and Creed. Both of them are Imperial legendaries. Creed is probably the best character in the game to pair with Commissar Yarrick, and if you have both of them built, you're going to dominate in any game mode where you're allowed to use both, whether that's arena or raids. And if you're lucky enough to have pulled the character through your requisitions, then congratulations, you know, you're going to do really well building this guy up. Marneus Calgar is a monster in arena with his AoE active. And he can be quite hard to kill with his recent buff to his Terminator armor. But he doesn't perform as well in the other game modes. The next 2 characters we're looking at are Archimatos and Aleph-Null. And they're testament to the fact that summoners are still probably the best characters in the game. And these 2 are no exception. They're both very flexible and versatile, and you can see how valuable Aleph-Null is, despite the fact that the character gets a score of 0 for the Guild Raid Necron, because we know you can't use Necrons in the Guild Raid Necron. The overall score is just still fantastic, and still, gets Aleph-Null a place in the top 12. They both pair really well with Eldryon because of the multi-attacks that they generate by virtue of having summons, and also the scarabs that Aleph-Null summons have their own independent multiple attacks. So yes, both very good characters to upgrade if you're planning on spending some resources. We finish off the Dirty Dozen with a final 3, and that is Celestine, Revas, and Morvenn. I'll just speak very quickly about all 3 and tell you why they're here. Celestine is the best tank in the game, and that makes her very useful in Arena. She's less useful in Guild Raids, but still has some value in extending fights because she essentially tanks and allows other characters to get damage in. I wouldn't be surprised to see her drop off in future months. Revas is a newly unlocked character. I think her event just ended a couple of hours ago, and you'll notice, or if you've been paying attention to the leaderboards, I came in first place for that event, so I think I've probably got more experience with a higher level Revas than a lot of other people. I say that because despite having her at a high level, I've been a little bit underwhelmed by her. She's certainly weaker than I would like her to be as a Tau fanatic, but objectively her main value at the moment seems to be in her arena performance. At the moment I have her at Legendary 4, and I'm in the process of taking her from Gold 1 to Gold 2, so I can report back later if she becomes more useful in other modes, or I find some other secrets that make her more powerful. I think that she would be a lot better if we could use marker lights on Guild Raid bosses, but at the moment that just isn't allowed or working. So at the moment I think she's probably a B tier character overall, but is on this list in the top 12 because she scores relatively well for the legendary release events. And then we have Morvenn Vahl completing the dozen by being a decent all-around character, but again, she doesn't really excel in anything, and I wouldn't be surprised if she drops off the list in the future. So that's your Dirty Dozen, and I've included here the list of characters from 13 to 20 just to sort of round out your interest and give you an idea of other characters that we thought about and worked on. Of this list, I can potentially see Athena going up if the synergies that we expect Athena to have with the other Eldari manifest, then certainly Athena's overall gameplay value will increase. So that's it. That's your character by character breakdown for the infographic, and we're now back to the summary page. You can see all 12 characters here, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with this one. I think I'm kind of self-learning and self-teaching, and I think this infographic has turned out pretty sleek. I'm pretty happy with the information that it provides. Feel free to share it with whoever you want. And as always, I'm more than happy to hear your thoughts and comments and feedback in whatever form or medium that takes. The owner of the Tacticus wiki, Sir Lancelot, has reached out to me and has been very kind to include a lot of my content on his wiki, so I would encourage you to check it out. It's got a lot of useful tips and tricks as well, and I'll include a link to that in the description below. So the final thing that I'm going to close the video off with is a bit of a plug to the Pants of Horus cluster. We're doing really, really well. The Revas character release event just ended, and all of the top 3 players in that event on that leaderboard are in the Pants of Horus cluster. We're just a really friendly group of people, and with a very lively, active Discord, constantly sharing insights about characters, providing roster advice, advice to guilds for guild raid progression, and that's manifesting in the fact that all of our guilds are constantly just doing better and better and better in the guild rankings. As I said, the main guild, my guild, has been established as the top raid guild in the game for this season, and we're hoping to stay there. Things are looking pretty optimistic at the moment, and many of our other guilds are again in the top 10, 50, 100, and progressing season on season. Recruiting is handled really well and really efficiently, and we've had people who've joined our cluster tell us that since joining our cluster, they've had far, far less difficulty in recruiting people to fill missing slots. We only have a few more spots left for guilds to join, and we're going to close the cluster to new guilds once we've filled those last few slots. So if you're thinking about joining, please get in touch with us. We'd love to have you. We'd love to chat to you. Really, I can't speak more highly of the group we've got and the community that we've built. That's all I've got, really, guys. Thanks so much for viewing and listening if you're still here. And I hope to see you back for more videos in the future.
Doo-doo-dee. It's Nandi!